Hi, folks, and welcome to the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, and I made a mistake. Well, actually, not really a mistake, I just didn't know that this thing existed. I actually, in our chronology here, missed something that was supposed to be talked about in 1979. Now, the thing is I didn't even know it existed. Chris Nelson, who is kind of one of the leads on theexpandingverse.com and a fellow YouTuber here, and also becoming a good friend, pointed this out and told me about it. And I also found out about it in a stream. Uh, there is a short story that came with your Imperial Troop Transport toy from the 70s, 1979 to be exact. This was a toy that I did not have because I was not alive, but my dad didn't have this either. But he was telling me that he remembers this, and of course, talks to some other people who remember this as well. This was, I guess, an Imperial Troop Transport that your stormtroopers could ride around in. So anyways, that's not the important thing. What's cool is that it actually came out with expanded universe fiction. There's a little comic book, or kind of a comic book, kind of like a mini picture book in here, actually. So if you have this, here's the first thing, and then it reads like an actual book, which is kind of cool. So it tells you it's kind of a story behind where this is used in the lore. And what's actually kind of interesting is that this actually shows the stormtroopers blowing up the sand crawler that we see in A New Hope, where Luke and Obi-Wan are on their way and they see that. We get to see that happen here. But it's kind of a cool story. It ties it in with the toy. And yeah, it's kind of cool to see that. And it's so cool that, again, a toy would include a story in here. Now, I don't have the toy. I bought this on eBay just for this. But it came with the original instructions as well, which is kind of cool, but I more got it for this. I don't know if there's any more still out there. I mean, thankfully, Chris pointed this in my direction, and I was able to find it. I mean, reading through it, Chris gave me this warning, and I agree with him. This is really only for the hardcore person that wants to have everything. I mean, honestly, this isn't necessary at all. And really, there's not much to it. But it is expanded universe, and it is outside of the scope of the movie, which means I want it, right? So, just a quick thing. This came out in 1979, but now we're going to go back to 1980, and we're going to go back to the newspaper strips by Russ Manning, still continuing in the early adventures trade here. And it's going to be called As Long as We Live. Now, how basically it's going is Luke and Leia are on their way to Arta 2, and basically to visit the capital city, and they have beef with the higher-ups because they're designing parts, right? This planet, or this group of people, they're designing parts for Rebel ships, but somehow these parts are also ending up on Imperial ships, TIE fighters, right? So somehow they're dealing with both sides, and the rebels are not too thrilled about that. There's no, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they kind of assumed that they were, the only ones getting these. Now it turns out that the Empire's getting these too, right? So enter Mog Doom, and he's this weird guy. He's the dealer, and he's kind of been going through all these scrap parts. And so ultimately Leia gets kidnapped. Luke goes looking, and then of course Han and Chewie show up, and then all of our heroes are together, and more of the plot is ultimately revealed. I don't want to keep going too more, I guess, into it, because of course spoilers. Darth Vader's called upon. So he's involved here, and it kind of is this weird, strange ending. I do kind of want to talk about it, though. So I'm going to have to give up the spoiler warning right here. So if you don't want to be any more spoiled, for those that want to leave, you can leave. Before you leave, though, know that this is an okay strip, but it's definitely not necessary for you to enjoy the Legends timeline. So that's about it. So for those that don't care about spoilers, here we go. So the spoilers. The character of Zahn flies an X-Wing in place of an injured pilot. And he goes with all these other X-Wings to fight this Star Destroyer. And his ship is not a warship. Zan's dad, his ship isn't. And Zan and his dad crash into the Star Destroyer, and it doesn't kill Vader, obviously, right? And our heroes escape. So it's kind of like a little bit of a dark ending there, where the father and the son of this story basically commit suicide in a way. It's a little dark and kind of not so settling. But again, it's kind of interesting. You're seeing this from a newspaper strip, which, you know, um, I thought was pretty good. So ultimately, at the end of the day, is as long as we live, an essential read. No, of course not. A lot of this early stuff in the timeline really isn't too essential to your expanding universe collection or reading. I would say though that it is a at least an entertaining read. I don't think you're going to um, have your mind blown by it, but I do think that a lot of these stories in here are pretty good. And I would definitely say, yeah, I mean, might be worth your time checking out. Definitely would not be the first thing I would show to a someone new to the expanding verse, but hey, that's just my opinion, right? So take it or leave it. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for joining me. That is all the time I have for today, and we will see you next time with another episode of the Star Wars Library.